Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Unfiltered with Bob Z, the podcast where we promise to give it to you just how we get it. So today we have a very special guest in the house, all the way from Virginia Beach, all the way from Virginia Beach down to good old Mermaid City. We have Sabrina Wooten, councilwoman for the city of Virginia Beach, the Centerville district. Is it district or is it ward?
It is the Centerville district.
Okay, the district. Okay,
yes.
Okay. And we're here talking to, I remember the last time I saw Mrs. Wooten, she came out when I was teaching public speaking at the Art Institute in Virginia Beach. And she came out and she blessed the kids with her presence, and she, told them a couple of things. Well, some of them were kids and some of them were adults, but young adults at that.
Yes.
So I just wanted to jump right in here and ask you a couple of questions about some things that's going on. And I guess I think it's probably, a year and a half ago when you joined the council, a year and some change,
yes.
three quarters. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, a black woman in Virginia Beach on the city council. So and that in and of itself wasn't the great big surprise, although Virginia Beach doesn't have a great history of minorities serving on the city council, and I can say that unequivocally. But what are some of the issues that you feel are the most important facing the city of Virginia Beach since you have been on the city council?
Well, I want to say first, thank you for having me today. It's certainly a pleasure to be here with you.
Hey.
And you're absolutely right. I came on council November 2018. It's been about a year and about 8 months or so, and I am the fourth African American who has sat on Virginia Beach City Council. So we don't have a lot of representation of African American who sit on the council from past history, but things are changing. And when I came on council, we had a myriad of issues. I stepped in at a time where we had lots of restructuring within our council. We had the Beach District seat vacated. We had to find someone to take over that area. We had the Rose Hall District seat that shifted, and we had to find a representative to take on that district and sit on council. Then we had the mass shooting. We had the constitutional resolution for the constitutional city that was a very important issue at the time. And now, we're in the pandemic and protests. So there have been a lot of challenges, and there have been a lot of issues that have come up with on city council. One of I would say the main issues is supporting our staff through the May 31st shooting. That still and always will be an issue for us and a concern, because we want to make sure we're supporting our staff still who are experiencing trauma and concerns in that area. So our staff, those issues, compensation for public safety and our staff members, our teachers, those are always really challenging issues, as well as flooding in several areas within our city, and ensuring equity in school. Those are very important issues.
Well, okay. I was just thinking as you were speaking, and since the incorporation, from Princess Anne County to the city of Virginia Beach, and that was that 1954-ish, 63 was Chesapeake. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to remember when they were incorporated from Princess Anne County to.
I'm not sure the exact date.
But so you said four
So I'm the fourth.
Right.
Yes,
and
I'm the
thinking
fourth.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
Councilmember Ann Rouse is the fifth.
Right. Okay. Okay. So that's really amazing, which kind of makes for a great segue into my next question. And the whole world has seemed to have changed a lot. I mean, pre pandemic, well, post pandemic actually, because George Floyd was after the pandemic
That's right.
hit, right? So we were already in a pandemic, and the whole world seems to have changed since that tragedy. How do you feel, Virginia Beach? Because, to be quite, unfiltered, Virginia Beach has had issues with racial equity and racial harmony. I guess I'm one of the GreekFest babies myself that, I was actually present and downtown, on the ocean front when that had happened. And just historically, from, I guess, the perspective of a young African-American male, I got a chance to kind of see what I consider to be aggressive behavior from the police. But how do you figure the city and the city has come a long way? I will grant you that. But how do you feel that they've changed with respect to social justice, and racial equity?
Well, with, as you mentioned, the pandemic already really wreaking havoc on our city and our nation, along with the issue George Floyd's death, it really put a spotlight on some of the issues, systemic issues that we have as a nation, and racism, prejudice, issues with police brutality, issues that were already there but were just highlighted and revealed in a really intimate way, brought home, to where we are as a region. And in the city of Virginia Beach, as you mentioned, there's a history that we have. And I remember when I was a teenager, I was told not to go down to the ocean front, to stay away. I remember that. And in terms of, how far we've come, to be able to sit on council and having to be, caution about going down to the ocean front is a huge change. And so I think what you see our city and our city leaders really paying attention, listening, because we want to hear the concerns of the citizens, the protesting that's going on. We're listening to what our young adults and those who are out there protesting, we're listening to what they want. Particularly for me, I'm hearing concerns about a citizens review panel. So that's something that, I'm listening to, I'm advocating for, and working with our council members to educate them on those concerns and issues.
And here's the thing with the citizens review panel, and we're dealing with the same thing in my hometown of Norfolk, where you have a citizens review board, which is one entity that doesn't necessarily have subpoena powers and different type of powers, but a citizen review panel, that's a more powerful entity where they're empowered to take on and do more things. So, I think that's going to be an interesting discussion down the road. My personal opinion was that it's just another level of bureaucracy that we're adding that, the taxpayers are going to have to be responsible for, and that the people who choose the police chief are the same people that choose the panel. So, it's kind of, and that just made me a little cautious. But my question to you is, in that current climate of change, which, hey, I'm not, opposed to any type of change. I'm like, okay, let's change. I welcome it in. And with the renaming of schools, streets, federal buildings, et cetera, how do you feel that will be viewed by your constituency from the perspective of racial equity?
I think when I listen to the changes that are being made with renaming schools and different entities, I see and hear from the community that they believe that it's time. Some people say it's time to revisit and look at the reasons behind some of the names and what they represent. And I do hear people saying that it's time to ensure that not just us, but our future generation, that they are able to progress past those systemic changes or systemic racist issues. Time to kind of bring us up to speed to 2020, to be inclusive and to make everybody feel valued. And I think that's really important.
Okay. I want to circle back to the pandemic for just a moment. And thinking about, I know you guys have, I guess the council has voted, and the school board has also voted to start virtually for what is it?
That's right.
The entire first half of the year, or?
I believe it's certainly until the numbers go down, but I believe somewhere estimating maybe that first half.
Okay. Well, you know, and I always think, I guess maybe it's how I was brought up, but, you know, the schools serve as a safe haven to some of our most vulnerable students that come from the underserved communities. And I'd like to know this, perhaps maybe or maybe not, is there a plan in place to maybe open something like the community centers, libraries or something, to address some perhaps potentially extreme circumstances? Or is the school board in partnership with the cities? I know they have something like that in Norfolk and maybe a couple of other cities in the Hampton Roads. So I'm just kind of wondering, has that been something to look at? Because some of these children I don't know what they can do if they have to stay home. They may be in abusive situations or something like that. So
yeah, that, you know, it's critical. I know we want to be safe. We want to ensure that our students are safe. However, we also want to make sure they're productive, and we don't want them to be home all the time. You know, they have to have an outlet.
Right.
And so that's you're correct. Looking at areas where you can open up a community center, a rec center, and, you know, kind of supplement with the, you know, school system is important. I usually defer to our school board and the school officials on that. I do know there has been some talk of trying to see how to bring in our faith partners and, you know, the churches and see how they can help, you know, with childcare and kind of support parents during this time, because it's very important. If you're a parent and you're maybe the sole breadwinner and you have to take care of your child 24 hours a day and you can't work, that's going to be difficult for you, and you can't telework. So I've heard that there are going to be some maybe talks about how can the faith community become a part of a solution in that area.
That's excellent, because, you know, we are a village. You know,
That's
it
right.
does take a village, and
It does.
You know, that's a good opportunity to bring in, you know, faith partners and other nonprofits or community partners. It's an excellent opportunity for that to transpire. I want to talk a little bit more about last May 31st, and we all have a story. I mean, you know, it's one of those tragedies where you remember where you were when it happened, you know. And one of the things that happened to me recently, one of my friends on social media, she told me that she wanted me to come down to where she was working, and I went down there, and it was the Virginia Beach Strong Center, and I was like, wow, and it's all these beautiful therapeutic, you know, devices and techniques and everything that they have in it. And I was like, wow, you know, I was really floored when I saw that, and I said, man, I think it's a partnership between Cox Cable and
also, what is it, the healthcare?
Centera.
Yes, Centera, yes.
Yeah, Centera and the city. And I said, you know, that's something, because I actually worked in the Public Works Department for Norfolk, and I can tell you that, you know, when I first heard it, and it's like they were saying it was public utilities, and I was thinking, man, I just know the culture. It's a tough culture. It's I don't want to say dog eat dog or cutthroat or any of those other, you know, commonalities that are used, but it's just a really tough culture. and it's a high stress. So, you know, that tragic shooting on at the city offices, you know, at the time it's like, wow, it's yet another, you know, mass shooting that has rocked the nation. And you know, they always say, well, you know, and it's important when they say, our thoughts and prayers are with you. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. And I can, you know, I get that, you know, that's important.
Yes.
But at the same time, beyond that, beyond the thoughts and prayers, what has some of the things that the city has done to address, you know, not looking backwards, but more looking forward to say,
Yes.
well, what has the city done to going forward to kind of like perhaps prevent that or?
Sure. You know, when the tragedy happened, shortly after that, I submitted a proposal. It was a resolution to review all of our safety measures. What can we do to make our municipal buildings safe for staff and for citizens? And also submitted a resolution to also look at or asking the General Assembly to give us authority to ban weapons in the municipal buildings. And so those two resolutions was a start to say, let's look at what happened in our community. People don't feel safe. If you look at it in terms of someone breaking into your home, it's not the same. However, when something like that happens, you become uneasy. You have thoughts about it. You are, in terms, you have fear. And when it's someone's coming into your home, they're disrupting your total security in your environment. Now, what do you do? First thing you do is you take an assessment and you look at how did this happen? You know, looking at from across the board, our staff, how are they treated? Looking at wellness programs, looking at you know, how we hire and promote, then looking at areas of safety. Do we need safety measures in place such as metal detectors? Do we need to look at ensuring that weapons aren't carried into those buildings? Right. And so those are things that you have to look at, and that proposal started the assessment. And the city has, in our budget, we approved funding to address some of the safety measures. The new building that we are having built for City Hall is going to incorporate some of those safety measures. And so it's going to be an ongoing process. There's a main issue. We weren't able to implement all of the recommendations that came back, but there's an area that focuses on personnel. Right. Like an ombudsman office, and that office would take concerns and complaints from the staff and kind of focus in and be a central area for them to go to and talk about their concerns if needed. So that's a key piece that's needed within the municipal department, and that's something that we're going to be working on and I'm going to promote. So it's going to be ongoing.
You know, that's fascinating because I know while I was employed with the city of Norfolk, and the first step, I guess they call it the grievance procedure. The first step in the grievance procedure was to talk to your supervisor, report to your supervisor. And the whole situation, like, what if your supervisor is the person that's harassing you?
Yes.
So you mean it's almost like telling somebody if they've been assaulted or raped or something, the next step is to go to your rapist.
Yes.
You know, and so it was crazy. Yeah. And I even go as far, because I've lived in different places. I know AFSCME, which is a union for federal and municipal city employees.
Okay.
Is a union. I was thinking, you know, the whole time I was there, I was like, these guys need a union. And mostly, like I said, working in public works, I knew that, you know, issues that I had, just being transparent, issues that I had, if it can happen to me, what about our sanitation workers? What about our people that fix the potholes who perhaps are maybe not that educated or you know, more blue-collar workers? Okay. And things could be done, you know, it's like the pressures that I saw applied. So I think I applaud the city of Virginia Beach for understanding that there has to be a buffer, so to speak.
That's right.
So the
the ombudsman office.
That's one of those words for me.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna let you handle that. Yeah. So my final question is
Sure.
the demographics.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Norfolk, and we were definitely like, you better not go down the oceanfront. It's the same way they should say, you can't go down the Great Bridge.
Okay.
You know, it's like don't go certain places, and that was just the facts. You know, don't go down the oceanfront by a bunch of, because you're gonna get beat up, by the police. That was just the perception, and at that time, but. Things, when I go down Virginia Beach now, I'm like, wow, the demographics are crazy,
Yeah.
and
Things have changed.
I'm like, this is grown. So, my question to you is, as a black woman, and with everything that's going on now with Kamala Harris, and I'm like, just different. I'm like, this is the year of the black woman. I know they might not want 2020. We might have to get another year because 2020 has been a tough year.
Yeah.
We might not want to make that, but I'm just proud that I'm just proud for diversity. So, as a black woman, do you think you bring a unique perspective to the table?
I say yes. And just commenting on something you said earlier, I remember when I became a part of the Virginia Beach Police Department as a chaplain. And I remember the issues that led me to do that. Someone was murdered by the police, and there were some things that happened not in the city of Virginia Beach. It was a national issue. And I remember saying, well, what can I do? And so that's when I got involved and became a volunteer in the police department to kind of see how things work, and I encourage anybody, with what we're going through, volunteer, get involved, and see how things work behind the scenes in our police department, in our citizen programs. They really break down what happens, and you get to see the officers at work in the community, and you get a chance to give feedback on that. So did want to touch on that just a bit. Okay. But I definitely say yes. Because of the voters in the city of Virginia Beach, they have given me the opportunity to be that voice at the table, to have that perspective for African Americans, and it makes a difference. When we're talking about infrastructure and what businesses are coming to the area. True. For instance, hiring the new city manager. He's first African American. So it's given me an opportunity to give voice and amplify and talk about opportunities for diversification and inclusion. So definitely it makes a big difference. And I'm very honored and blessed to be able to sit in a position where I can amplify the voice of the community.
Well, that's great. And you're up for re-election, right?
Yes, I'm
okay.
Re-election 2020.
So that's November 3rd.
November 3rd, coming very soon.
And so I'm going to give you opportunity if you have a website or something.
Sure, and thank you. November 3rd, I do represent the Centerville District, but I serve the wonderful citizens all over Virginia Beach. So no matter where you live in Virginia Beach, you can vote for me on November 3rd. I've been on council for a short time, but I can tell you I've been working, and I've been working in areas of the disparity study and education and supporting our local businesses. So give me an opportunity to come back on November 3rd, vote me back in for re-election, and give me an opportunity to finish the good work that I've started. One good fact is there's not been an African American re-elected to council. So I would be the first African American re-elected to council if the voters come out and support me. For more information, you can go to SabrinaWooten.com.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. And Sabrina Wooten, Virginia Beach City Councilwoman, representing the Centerville District. Thank you for coming out, and we enjoyed you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.